Mic. Camera. Action.
Raise your weapons. Higher. Spin your cylinders. More, keep it up. Stop. Aim. Cock your hammers. Number 13, no turning around. Players, all eyes on the bulb. When the bulb lights up, you shoot.
Welcome back to the Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from the focused filmography and consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 22, I'm joined by the debuting Maff to discuss the 22nd big screen appearance of the Stath in the unlucky for everyone involved 13. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. So, Maff, my opinion's clear, but I want to thank you for coming on the show to discuss the Stath's role in, and I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Gela Babluni's English language remake of his own directorial debut, 13 Zat Meti. I'm trying. That's all I can say.
It's better than what I would have done. I'd have butchered that as well. Aye, cheers for having me on. I know everybody was trying to get this one and that everyone wanted to review this one with you, weren't they?
There was a mad rush, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
'cause we probably started talking about 6 months, a year after I launched this project.
Yeah.
And then this one was still available. So that probably says something.
Yeah. I suppose I'm looking for some 13 into strange. 13 is actually my partner's lucky number. So
okay.
Kind of went into we met on the 13th. We got married on a Friday the 13th, and it was a good day. Our youngest son was born on January the 13th, so it kind of 13 is not unlucky for us. It's been good. And then I watched this, and I know that some people in regards to the Statham, this is kind of his second to worst film according to Rotten Tomatoes, and that. So going into this, kind of seeing that, I thought, oh, what have I let myself in for? I know I've picked a better one further down the line.
And there was going to be much better ones further down the line.
Yeah, but I mean, it's strange because you did Collateral, and there is literally probably a 30-second clip of Statham in it.
Yeah, a 13-second clip. Yeah, maybe
13. Yeah. this one, again, he's not really in it much. I don't think it is a Jason Statham film. And that, to be fair, you could quite easily have just taken him out and put someone else in there instead of him.
Mm-hmm.
And that, but the film in itself, I mean, we're gonna get into it, and it's gonna. I'm gonna let you into a bit of a secret. I actually quite enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and
Well,
that.
I'm glad you let me into it because it'd be a weird podcast if I never to hear what you thought of the film. But
Uh,
that's going to be fascinating because
yeah,
I think in most other episodes, the guest and I've aligned in our opinion of the film pretty much. So if we're coming at this from different perspectives, that's going to be really interesting because you're going to be much more positive, and I can tell you right now, I'm going to be fighting you every step of the way.
but that, I mean, you could change my mind at the end of this. I might think, actually, no, he's right. It was bad,
Which is
but
not
then
what I
again,
want to do. I want you to, we all like what we like. There's no issue with that.
but I might change your mind. You might actually think, do you know what? There is elements there. There is certain things that you can take away and actually think, do you know what? I might watch it again. I've watched it 1.5 times.
Okay.
Um, I, I I couldn't remember certain bits of the start, so I watched a bit this morning before I went back to. I'm milkman, so I work early mornings, so I go back to bed for a couple of hours. But I watched a bit of it this morning just to refresh kind of what happened at the start. 'Cause
Mm.
storytelling is not brilliant.
Hmm.
It's kind of let you know everything that's going on. So I was kind of thinking, I've looked at my notes. I'm looking to see what. Yeah, I can't really remember what happens there.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not horrible. That's what I'll say.
No, fair. And it's perfectly possible. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to, really, the guest is the star of the show. So I'm willing to concede that, you might change my mind. At the moment, if you put a gun to the back of my head, I wouldn't watch it again. But yeah, let's see what you can do. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
It's your first episode and you are going to be on again, before we get into the actual film, what is your general relationship with the Stath? Big fan, seen a lot of his films. Now at this point, today, when we're recording, he has 44 films on his filmography that have been released. It will, of course, very soon be 45 when Expendables 4 comes out. But at this point, it's 44. Like, what's your relationship with him? Have you done a tally? How many do you think you've seen?
I haven't. I meant to do that before we started. I, it was scary actually when he started doing this project. I kind of thought, oh yeah, I know Jason Statham, and then I start looking, going, actually, I've seen a lot more of his films than I realised.
Hmm.
There's a few that I haven't. I mean, I think when I first got introduced to him, it was Lock, Stock,
Hmm.
and then Snatch afterwards. But then it, I think it's because he was that British kind of rugged action hero that Americans had the main part that they had Stallone and they had Schwarzenegger and that, and then we got Statham, and it were kind of going back to that old kind of action star, and then also to kind of learn a bit more. I know you mentioned he was a diver and a
Hmm.
dancer.
And a
It's quite
chancer.
yeah, it's got. But I mean that's kind of. I think Lock, Stock is one of his best films because he acts so much in it. It's all centered around him, to be fair,
Hmm.
and he shows off his acting chops. I think sometimes, I mean, he's brilliant at the martial arts stuff. I mean, I watch it sometimes and I can put my back out, and that I won't be able to do any of that stuff that he does. Um, he, you know, he's got a magnificent body and that, and he's quite happy to show it off.
Mm.
Even at what was he? Was he 50? He's
Oh,
53 or something
he's
now.
got to be well into, hasn't he? Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know exactly, but he's got to be mid-50s.
Uh, right, he's 11 years older than me. Right, he's 56.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he's it's like having one of them old action stars, and I'm glad that we've got him.
Mm.
And not he's never going to win an Academy Award. He's never going to be, BAFTA. But for what he does, I think he's really good at what he does.
Mm.
And when they allow him to actually use his acting chops, again, I think he's very good at what he does. It's just, I think sometimes someone, a bit like Stallone and that, they just saw him as a big muscle man.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you go back and watch Rocky,
Mm.
he acts his socks off through that. Not his first film debut, but we won't talk about his first
That's fair.
film debut.
Altogether.
VHS, go listen to that. But yeah, I think when they're willing to give him a bit, I mean, he can lead a film. We know that he can lead a film, but I think when they're willing to give him a bit more of a script, he's very good at delivering.
Mm. No, I think you're absolutely right. There's a few coming up not too far down the line where I think he's trying a few different things out. We've got something like we've got Safe and we've got Hummingbird, where like he's acting a bit more and winding back the martial arts stuff a bit. Where I think, yeah, I agree with you because his innate charisma allows him to be a leading man. He can just also kick people's ass at the same time. So yeah, I agree, and I think I've said it before in different podcasts. I'm sure when I was deciding who to focus on, there was the obvious ones. There was the Arnie. There was Jean-Claude Van Damme was the one I was really drawn to because of how much I enjoyed him in my youth. Very much similar to Chris. Like he was kind of my go-to guy as well in that way. But then when you looked at his filmography, the later stuff, there was just so much dirge on there. So finding somebody somewhere in this realm, and then as soon as I thought, oh yeah, the Stath, and it just hit because you're right. You get acting, you get kind of collaborations with Guy Ritchie where you can see him change, but also you get that he bridges that world between kind of blockbuster and independent really nicely. I think he fits in.
I think he also fits into most films.
Mm,
Whereas when, like Jean-Claude Van Damme, when you watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, he's kicking ass. That's pretty much most of his films. Whereas Statham doesn't do that. There's a lot of films where he's not. I mean, in this, he's a bit of a wimp, and
hmm
that he's not a fighter. He's not that. He's a coward,
hmm
and that. I think that's kind of. I mean, I think also it's like there's a film coming up that you were doing Homefront where it's dad
Yeah.
and daughter thing, and Statham's the kind of person that you would feel safe going to,
hmm
and that he kind of gives you that feel of he is a dad, he is a kind of that safety blanket, and also if anyone messes with you, he will kick their ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the fact that he goes from the crazy stupid things like Crank 2 to then you get to like Bank Job and other things like that where it's good that he can turn his hand to most things. He can even be a farmer in Name of the King
Mm,
and
he could
that. But
old farmer. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, it's good the fact that he can kind of turn his hand to most things, and I think as he's getting into his later years, he's not going to be able to do all that action stuff that he would. So he's not just lumbered with being like an Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean,
Mm,
Arnie's turned it around a bit now. He's done some better films where he's had to act. He's still a little bit wooden at times, but it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, so you know what you're going to get.
yeah.
Whereas, Statham, I think if you said, look, this is a serious role, we want you to kind of go down this line, I think he can pull it off.
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember who it was that I was in discussion with about this idea of, looking forward to his grizzled years. And, he has been compared to people like Steve McQueen or to Clint Eastwood and, harkening back further past the 80s crew back to, 70s and 60s. And I think he could become more of a kind of grizzled, dramatic actor. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But it's like you said, Clint Eastwood, even though when he got, he's got very old and that, and he still has that presence of, I'm not going to mess with him.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
Gran Turismo, is it Gran, no, Gran, yeah, is it Gran Turismo that he's in with the car?
No, because that's drive.
No.
That's yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
Gran, okay. But there's a film where it's about his car and he's the old man who's got a certain car and this kind of he takes on this kid to a certain degree. he's an old fella. He doesn't go around punching and doing anything like that, but he's got a presence of him where you think, I'm not going to mess with him, really.
Mm,
I can see Statham going on that lines further down.
mm.
That it's not the fact that, I mean, he probably could still kick your ass, even if he were in his 90s and that, but it's that presence that he kind of commands to a certain degree.
Yeah, I agree. I just looked it up. Gran Torino.
Gran Torino, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. We were both stuck there because it's so close to Gran Turismo.
It's because Bully Gran Turismo's come out last week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. It's on the mind. So yeah, I agree with all that. It's fascinating, and thank you for giving some of your thoughts on the Stath because that's what we're here for, really. And you're right, he's not in this movie that much, really. It's quite a an eclectic ensemble cast, isn't it? We've got Sam Riley as the definite lead, and we'll talk about him. But yeah, the Stath is quite a supporting character.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you've got Mickey Rourke's in it more. In fact, I'd even say Michael Shannon's probably in it more than Statham.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, he's doing the same thing over and over and over, but yeah,
yeah,
maybe he's got more screen time.
he's definitely got more screen time, I'd say. I mean, even Ray Winston's got more screen time than what Statham has.
Yeah.
Um, it, I'm not quite sure why he took the film on,
Mm,
and that I feel that you could have put anyone else in this role, and they would have just done as good a job as what he has. I think he's wasted.
mm.
Maybe him and Ray Winston's roles would have been better if they swapped them around. I think, Ray Winston would have been the older brother kind of pushing the younger brother to kind of do what he wants to do. I think it could have worked a bit better. I mean, we've seen Statham be a bit crazy in Mean Machine,
Mm-hmm.
as I can't remember, is it the priest or something like that? He's called Monk. He's called the
Monk, the
Monk into
goalie. Yeah, that's right.
I think he could have probably pulled off that more crazy, but I mean, Ray Winston's brilliant in it as well. He's good in it. I think I'm going to get cursed if I say brilliant in any parts of this film, but I think he does the role well. But I do think that could have probably slipped around.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Just look at some of the names you just listed off. Mickey Rourke, Michael Shannon, Ray Winston. Like the cast is really impressive for this, isn't it? And you're right. Like where this sits in his filmography is really weird. Like I'm not a big fan of Transporter 3. I think there was some big missteps made there, and I understand why he walked away from that franchise. But yeah, he's just had Crank 2. Death Race was a big hit. He's about to star in The Expendables. So it is a weird role for him to take, whether he had a bit of time in his schedule or it was a favor for somebody. I mean, the original was well received and well celebrated. So whether they thought this was going to be a big deal, I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder whether maybe Ray Winston had gone in and said, "Do you know what? I reckon this guy would do being alongside me." And he's had a word with him. They're both,
Hmm.
Cockney geezers. Whether that's kind of how it's come about, I don't. It does seem a bit off
Hmm.
for a kind of role that, especially at this point when he's starting to kind of pick up a fair bit.
Hmm.
He has had success, but yeah, I mean, I assume he must have had the expendable role before this film came out,
Yeah, it's the same year. So
because that could have been a bit of a. If this had come out, I will take on board. Even though I did quite like it, I do accept the fact that a lot of people didn't, and
mhm.
I can kind of see why. But I think when you start breaking it down and looking at it in a different way, that's why I can take a bit more out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, fair. I mean, I tried to look for it and I couldn't find it. Did you watch the original? Do you know anything about the original? The difference
No,
you
I didn't actually realize it was original.
No, fair enough.
Which I mean, if it's subtitled, I will have a look and see if just to be able to compare it a little bit.
Yeah.
I do think it has a story to kind of tell. It's not not the right word. It has something it wants to say about society. which I think that's why I can take it away and go, do you know what? Well, it's trying to say, I do get. The acting is so, but I think maybe because it's been translated from, is it Spanish to English?
So it's French
Or is
Georgian.
it French?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Right.
French language. I know the director, I believe, is Georgian.
All right. So maybe in translation, that's where it's kind of broken down. Or
Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
it's the editing. Because there are
oof.
times it jumps around a bit and you're like, what? Hang on. We were
Yeah, I mean,
just,
it's one of those weird occasions, and it happens, every now and then, where it's the same director. So the same director, say writer director in this instance of the original is remaking his own film. And yeah, I wish I just like I said, I looked around, I couldn't find it anywhere obvious to watch it, and I try not to use anything that I don't have legal procurement
yeah.
is the way I prefer to watch my films. Um, unless I'm absolutely stuck and somebody can prime me with it. But I don't use any of those kind of sites, but if it's on YouTube or something, fine. Yeah, I couldn't find it anywhere to watch. And I think, yeah, there are issues with the filmmaking, which I think I'd like to talk about at some point. I don't think he's a great filmmaker, and I can't imagine there's a big difference in the way that he's made this film from the original, because I think that's probably just his skill set. But I also don't
Yeah.
think, as a concept, it really works that often. I had a good look through when I found this out. I had a good look through all these different kind of remakes that have happened over time, particularly where it's a foreign language to an English language remake. And just, the examples that I found of ones that I've seen, so I can personally comment on, I don't think any of them have ever improved upon the original anyway. So something like Funny Games by Michael Haneke. I don't know if you've seen either of those.
Um, it sounds familiar.
So it's about two boys who do like a home invasion, but it's like a very much like you were talking about. We'll get into for 13, like a social commentary on
Yeah.
the audience's relationship with watching violent movies. There's a film called The Vanishing. The remake's got Keith Sutherland and Sandra Bullock in
Yeah.
it, and Jeff Bridges. So
Hmm.
again, the same guy, George Sluzier, he remade his own film. We've got, Takeshi Shimizu. Sorry again for pronunciation, but he remade The Grudge.
Yeah.
So Ju-on and then The Grudge, which is the Sarah Michelle Gellar, which was decent, I think. I'm also prejudiced because it's Sarah Michelle Gellar. So there are these examples, and I'm sure there's loads more. They're the three which really stood out to me, where like the same director has remade their own movie, and each time it's a lesser effort. And I imagine that's probably, without having seen it, I imagine that's probably the same here.
Maybe he's trying to chase that thing saying this, I've got an idea, but I don't know if it'll work. Whereas this did work, so let's redo it again because
Mm,
I really liked it. But
mm,
the problem is, I think it's sometimes it's the chemistry.
hmm
Like, considering that Lewis and Statham, I believe they know each other. They've worked together before. I think
mm.
actually maybe they no, it
I
wasn't
can't
in.
think, maybe not at this point. I don't think
No,
we have. No, I think this will be the
I was
first.
thinking he was in Lock, Stock, but he isn't.
No.
So no, so maybe not then. But I didn't buy that they were brothers.
Hmm
I think they didn't kind of have that bit of chemistry between each other.
hmm
Um, if it had just been a case of he was a friend and I put him into care, then I could have probably bought that a bit better. I think it was just because we're both Cockneys, so
hmm
there we go. We'll stick them as the brothers these two are. I'm not sure that really worked. Um, I'm starting to talk myself out of the film a little bit now, but I I do think it is it's the social commentary of what it stands for
hmm
is what I did actually quite like about it. The fact
Okay.
that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I think that's where it kind of it doesn't do a bad job.
hmm
And like you said, I mean, it's got a really good cast. I just think I think it's a bit wasted, but maybe it is a case of it just got lost in translation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Let's talk about the film then. So, and I want to get to, your thoughts on the social commentary. Did you want to attempt a plot synopsis?
on, I'll let you do that bit.
All right. So we've got Sam Riley. He is an electrician. Sam Riley having a hot minute after playing after Control, isn't it? Playing Ian Curtis from George Original
uh,
Control. So this is
mm,
shortly after that. He is Vince, an electrician, and he overhears. I can't think. I couldn't find the character's name. This guy who swiftly after dying of an overdose, that he's got a chance to make a lot of money very quickly, and Vince needs some money because his dad's in hospital and he has to pay for his hospital bills. So he takes the envelope and he goes off on this mystery. Like he gets a phone, and the phone tells him to go to a train station, use his ticket, and then he gets taken by a taxi driver to a random location. Then he gets picked up and taken to another like an abandoned house, isn't he? And it turns out that he's accidentally taken the place and signed up for a competition where people are being forced by, and I'm assuming this is maybe where the social commentary view comes in, forced by kind of rich, wealthy, like bloodlust, blood sport fans to stand in a circle, pointing a gun at each other, load one bullet in, and chance of fate, deer hunter style, spin it, and then you pull the trigger and see if the person in front of you, if you kill them, but also if the person behind you would shoot you. And we have a mixture of clear, like kind of new people like Vince, but we also have some more experienced players who have survived this, such as the character played by Ray Winston, Ronald Baggs, who has won 3 meetings or something, I
yeah, I
think,
think it won
fourth
three
go
of them.
round. That is the basic premise in a nutshell. I'm not going to worry about spoilers because the film completely spoils itself because it shows you at the start of the movie who the final 2 contestants are going to be before kind of, before flashing back to show how we got to this point. And then, so it shows you that the 2 people remaining at the end are going to be Sam Riley's character and Ray Winston's character, which I thought was
Yeah,
a
but
really poor decision.
it it did it didn't make sense. That I think that's a bad that was a bad choice there to kind of it. It would have been fine if it was shown Vincent Sam Riley's character
Hmm.
holding the gun and
Sure.
that against someone else.
And whose head it was, or
Yeah, because you know there's a bit with like Mickey Rourke's character.
mm,
Um, you kind of think, well, what's kind of happening here? It got to the point where there's that plot armor. You know that certain people are gonna get killed,
yeah,
and that. I mean, 50 Cent's in this as well. Again, he's probably in it more than what Statham is.
he is not good. He's been in other
No,
better. I don't know if maybe this was his first, and he's obviously going to come up again in other movies. But
he's
yeah,
going to be in
not
Expendables 4, isn't he?
he is.
Is
Yeah,
it 4, 5, or 5? I can't, the next one
Expendables
that comes
4.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not good.
Um, yeah. Again, I, I mean, I wonder whether maybe the the director's got dirt on all these characters because
Yeah.
I think maybe it would have been a better film in a way if there'd been lesser known characters in there. But I think
Hmm.
because you see that like you said, there's Sam Riley's in it, Jason Statham, Mickey Rourke, 50 Cent, Ray Winston, Michael Shannon. There's a lot of big name characters there.
Hmm.
So you kind of think, well, this must be really good. And I think maybe that's what lets it down because you probably expect more
Hmm.
than what this is willing to give you.
Yeah, fair argument.
And again, I do feel that maybe because, I repeat myself a bit here, but maybe because it's been translated for an American and English audience,
Hmm.
it's just lost it. Because, I mean, I'm just looking on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm saying it. My daughter told me off earlier on today about saying tomatoes. The original's got an 84%. whereas I think 13 on Rotten Tomatoes is like a 20-something%.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So how has it lost so much?
Mm.
Something's gone wrong there. Something's
Yeah.
gone seriously wrong there.
Definitely. I mean, the few bits I read were so the original's in black and white. It doesn't have any of the flashback scenes, which I think in this version add absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter how these people got there. What else did I read? They were the two key things, I think. I think you're right. The actors are a problem. I think it's his brother who plays the main character in the original, and he obviously provides like a realistic, kind of wired performance. I actually don't think Sam Riley's that good in this. I don't think he's that good an actor, actually. I think he's amazing in Control, but I'm not sure he's
Hmm.
ever really achieved that again. He's pretty decent in Free Fire, but other than that, so yeah, yeah, I'm not sure. For it to be so similar by the sounds of it to the original, other than, a couple of missing scenes and adding color, so you're right, something's gone seriously wrong.
Right, I've just looked it up. The original is an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. 13 gets 7%.
Mm.
I mean, again, I don't know. I just maybe it will like a tax write-off. Maybe maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just like I had to make something and we'll just throw it together. And, people are just phoning it in a bit. I don't know.
I mean, that's definitely true. Actor-wise, they're phoning it in. Like I say, I think we'll break it down in some more depth. I don't think Bablawani is a good filmmaker. I think, the fact he's only got on to make one film after this is quite telling. We all have bad days at our job. There are bad films from every director. Every director's got a bad film on their CV. The fact that, he's not really made anything else after this point, I think speaks volumes.
Mm.
I think the score in this, which I think we want to talk about in some depth, is one of the worst things I've ever heard. And I'm just going to stop there. Not in a film, just ever. From the start, the score, I looked up who it was, a guy called Alexander Bubenheim. Okay. Again, not a household name. I honestly thought it. I don't know if you've ever done any editing on like iMovie. It sounds like he's done it on iMovie or he's got it from like a free website or something. It doesn't fit the film at all. Like each time he tries to come up with like a theme for that scene, it feels like contrapuntal. It feels like totally out of place. Like when Vince is learning about the guy taking drugs and then he overdoses and he gets the envelope, it's all really jaunty. And then when it's meant to be, a tense scene, the music is upbeat and has a pace to it. It's honestly one of the worst things I've ever heard.
I think as well. Well, I know it's a 2010 film, but it feels like a 90s film. The way it looks, it's gritty. It's that kind of more of a 90s kind of film look to it, where you know it's not set, it's not filmed in HD. It feels like it's filmed on a 8mm kind of lens. It's, I mean, I just looking. The budget's 20,000 and it made 3,000 worldwide.
20
You
million.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
20 million, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
And it made
Thousand
three
would
million
make sense.
worldwide. Yeah, yeah, sorry. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm feeling bad now that I'm coming here and saying, I quite liked it. And now, the more that you
No.
talk about it, you start kind of thinking, but it's one of those where there's something about it that I enjoyed. And I think it is the social commentary of the kind of the rich are happy to play with our lives for their
Hmm.
own benefit. And the fact that the people who are on the breadline, the working class who are struggling to make ends meet, are willing to do something. I mean, Vincent kind of gets put into this without knowing what's kind of going on, and then he gets to the point where he doesn't have a choice anymore. You know, I mean, as the film goes on, you see that there are a lot of the contenders. They can't handle this, so they're taking drugs to be able to kind of get through to the next part because they're just so freaked out. You know, but you have to think that each one of them is aware of what they're coming into, so they must be in a bad situation
Mm.
just to kind of play on these, for these rich fat cats to have a bit of fun.
Mm.
And it did amuse me the fact that, like, we'll give you this odds on this guy because he's going to be. It it comes down to just a pure, spin of the wheel, really. The spin of the barrel. That's all it came down for. So the fact that Winston's character is a seasonal pro, he's done this 3 times. He's just been really lucky. It's not the case of he's got a game plan. I mean, my game plan is don't get shot. you know, pray to God that you're not. I mean, it's just. I think that's what I enjoyed, the fact that you can kind of see the fact that people are sometimes put in such a bad situation. I mean, it's like the reason that he does this is because his dad. They never really say what's wrong with his dad. It looks like he's been in an accident or something like that. And like Vincent goes along to kind of see him and says, look, we've put the house up for a second mortgage, I think, and that. And then he goes along to his dad's not happy about it, and that. But then he goes to his electrical a job as an electrician, and he overhears this guy kind of talking about able to make a lot of money. And if he just does this one job, he's going to make so much money that they won't have to worry about it. And the guy ends up ODing, and Vincent, because he's there, he has to be interviewed by the police. But at that point, he goes and takes the letter to kind of find out what's going on. He's in that situation there. The fact that he knows they need money. And this guy's kind of mentioned the fact there's a lot of money to be made by just doing this one simple job. And he takes a gamble. Literally takes a gamble. And that and you can see his reason for doing that. They unfortunately have such big medical bills in the USA where they don't have the luxury of the NHS. They don't have that kind of thing. It's a scary thought that it costs them so much money just to try to keep healthy. It seems like having a child. They have to budget so much money to be able to have a child because it will cost them so much over there. Whereas, we're quite fortunate we don't have that. That's why I kind of feel that, there's something about this, that there's a lad there who's trying to do right for his family and to look after, to kind of step up and be the man and kind of do the right thing, that he's willing to kind of, take a risk and find out what's going on to make this money to then obviously then have to risk his life. And that it's amusing though that it's an hour and a half long, but yet realistically the game's over within 15 proper minutes.
Yeah.
And that it's a very quick kind of turnaround. That again, maybe the original might kind of fill in that. There's a lot of filler here that doesn't seem to work. There's the story with Mickey Rourke's character about he hid a load of money, and then he kind of tells 50 Cent, look, if you get me out of this, if you make sure I'm safe, I've written it all down here, and that. But if it all goes wrong, just go into my pocket and you'll know to take the money.
Yeah, each character gets like a minder, don't they? So you've got 50 Cent for Mickey Rourke, you've got Alexander Skarsgård for Sam Riley's character.
Yeah.
So yeah, another big name in this cast.
Yeah, which again, I think I'm glad I enjoyed. I'm glad I watched the film, but I do feel that a lot of this film could have just been. The guy could have saved a lot of money by not having all these big name actors, which is where obviously the bill went to spend all his money on the actors. Maybe that's what he thought. Maybe he thought, I've done this before. Let's hire some really big actors to do this. But then it feels like he's not directed him. He's not kind of told him what he wants him to do. He's just expected him, you know, well, you're the Statham, so you can do this. You know, you're Mickey Rourke, you can do this as well. You know, just go do your thing. And I think that's what it is there isn't a clear kind of path for them.
It's probably quite an intimidating place to be on a set with all these people. If you're an inexperienced director, which he is, you're directing actors in a different language. I imagine that's quite a difficult position to be in. And yeah, you're right. I mean, everyone is just sort of doing a role they've done before. And you said they were phoning in earlier, and I think that's definitely true. Sadly, Stath included, I don't think anybody's really making much of an effort in this. I mean, you are winning me over slightly. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think you said some really interesting points there. I think there is social commentary that I wasn't really paying much attention to when I watched it, if I'm honest. I think I was so focused on the level of filmmaking. And as that is my background, that is my interest, I think I was getting caught up in that perhaps, that I didn't allow for that to shine through. So I think you're making a good argument there. I did like your comment about the skill because there's a hilarious moment because it ends in a duel, doesn't it? So
Mm.
you have Michael Shannon, who's like the ring announcer as such, and he's on a rickety stepladder for some reason in all of his
Watching a light
scenes.
bulb.
Yeah, with the same four lines, you know, load your guns, put it in the air, spin the reel or whatever as he says. Yeah, yeah, watch the light bulb. It's again a wasted performance for him, really. But once the people have been knocked out, there's about 5 or 6 left, isn't there? Like the semi-final, and then 2 randomly get selected from. There's like 3 rounds, and whoever's left from the 3 rounds goes into a random selection, don't they? And that's they have the
Yeah.
duel. And this is the thing that Ray Winston survived 3 times. So at this point, Mickey Rourke's character actually just gets released. He gets
Yeah.
paid some money, which again is a weird ending. He just kind of leaves the film. You think they would just kill them all because why would they want this getting out?
Yeah, because that's kind of a thing, you know, spoilers, you know,
Oh, don't
Vincent
worry. Yeah.
Vincent survives it, but then he's left in that situation of he's just I mean, I can't remember they paid him like over £1 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1.5 million or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think based on the bets, isn't it?
Yeah, and then he's like, shit, they're gonna kill me. Which I suppose to be fair, the guys that have kind of hired him, he wasn't the guy that they were hiring
No,
anyway. So
that's true. Yeah. But you're
whereas
right. There's a hilarious. So I was just going to say, there's a hilarious comment made about skill, isn't there? Like,
yeah,
bet on Ray Winston. Bet on Ray Winston. He survived 3 times. He's got the skill to survive this round. I mean, what the fuck? What do you mean? Like, the skill is pulling a trigger and just hoping that like you said,
he's been
that
lucky
he's got
3
lucky.
times.
I guess the skill is holding your nerve and pulling the trigger the quickest because he does pull his trigger first, but
Yeah,
his bullet is not loaded in, is it? Whereas Sam Riley's character Vince, he pulls second, but because his bullet's in the chamber, he happens to win. So I suppose
yeah.
there's, I can sort of see there being an argument there somewhere. Now I'm arguing for the film. Look what you've done to me, Maff.
Yes, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is that he's
Like a
I
quick
don't really want
draw.
to use this, but he's a quick on the draw.
Yeah, hey,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
maybe that's what it is. The fact that he's got that nerve. So as soon as the kind of the light goes in, he's just got that reaction.
Yeah.
And the fact that if he's quicker than the guy that he's up against, the rest of it leading up to this,
Mhm.
it's just pure chance because everyone has to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, whether you pull first or not, you have to pull the trigger because there's a big thing at the end. I think the first one when Vincent's like everyone's pulled the trigger and it's like 13 hasn't pulled yet. He has to
Yeah.
pull the trigger. And that maybe that's the thing that Ray Williams is just so quick on his reaction. That's why people can, they're saying, well, bet on him because he's quick enough to do this.
Hmm.
Especially against this lad who looks like he's papping himself all the way through.
Yeah. Good point, crapping yourself. Why does nobody who gets shot piss or crap themselves?
Oh, one guy gets up again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. One gets shot in the head and
Yeah,
then he just gets up again. Yeah, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
The amusing thing is, he kind of gets back up again, and his handlers or the guy that's kind of using him to bet was like, he's fine, he can carry on. and like the doctor looks at him and like, no, so they just shoot him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Which ties into your social commentary, that sense of, like putting down the horse when it's of no use anymore and treating people
Yeah.
in the same way. Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the thing is, I think there was a point where one of them kind of does shoot, and I think they have pissed themselves. I think there was a point where one of them does, but I suppose once they're dead, they quickly remove them very fast anyway from that situation. So you don't really see that much of it. It's kind of, you hear the gunshot more than anything else.
Well, yes, let's talk about that. Now, you've done some convincing. Now, I need to have my say, I think. I need to have my
Yeah.
say about the filmmaking. Yeah, I think the cinematography, the framing, you mentioned the editing, is all really bad. Like you say, you can't really see it. It reminded me of Turn It Up, which was Statham's third movie, the one when he's like a music producer,
Mhm.
where that's clearly been made by somebody who has been given a chance. There's a couple of scenes that really stand out in this movie to me. One of them is one of the first scenes when they're in the mansion, and it's cutting backwards and forwards between people, and they never feel like they're in the same conversation. And people like
Mhm.
enter rooms, and it's really obvious. It's like, here's your cue, enter the room. It just feels disjointed. And there's a couple of scenes later on during I think it's the second or third, I don't know what to call it, like the roulette scene, I suppose, the Russian roulette scenes, where he's trying to do some stuff with the camera. But what he does is he positions it like behind Michael Shannon. So all you can see is the back of Michael Shannon. You can't see the two. I think so in the duel, it goes behind Michael Shannon, and you
Mhm.
can't see Ray Winston and you can't see Sam Riley's character. Like that was a really, I mean, I'm doing it visually for you now. Nobody else can see it, but like my head's big in the middle and they're small on either side. Like, why could we not see those characters? The framing was off. And there's a moment earlier on when he's moving the camera behind the crowd as they take the shot. Like, what? Like, I don't want to see a static crowd as this exciting, dangerous, thrilling, horrendous, criminal, like whatever word you want to throw at it. This thing that's happening on stage should be the focal point, and it's not. It's there's some really poor choices being made.
It kind of felt, if anyone's been to a concert and you're trying to see what's going on the stage and you're moving around the crowd and you're behind someone and then you move to the side and then
Sure.
there's a bit with the rather large fella who ends up getting him a chair
Yeah,
for him
yeah,
to
yeah,
sit on the
yeah.
chair to kind of point the gun up. And that from that point, it's like you're just below the stage looking up at him. So it feels like,
Which again is the wrong choice because if you're trying to show that he's weak and he's got no character, you've got to be looking down at him.
but well, yeah, but at the same point, when you're looking up at him, you can see that it's kind of hard. It's trying to hold it together and trying to breathe, and it's looking as if he's about to pass out. So I
Mm.
think in a way, I think if you were looking down at him, you would see the top of his head and him kind of hunched over. Whereas if you're looking up at him,
As if you
you
are
see,
holding your power over him, you see, Matthew. I'm afraid what you're doing is
yeah, but
arguing my point for me here.
no, because if you're looking up at him, you can see that he's still hunched over, and you can see in his face that kind of, oh, I can't carry on kind of thing. I mean, spoilers doesn't, but I-
I mean, I like your explanation of the concert thing. I mean, that's sound, but also like he's a director, he gets to make choices. You do that for a moment, and then you show us the action. Like, you know,
yeah,
in my opinion, and we could disagree on this. This is fun. This is fun. I think these are poor choices that are being made, which take away. There's a high concept premise going on a stage here that we want to see. We don't want to see it, but we want to see it. It's that weird thing, isn't it?
yeah,
And he's not in my opinion, it's not being shown to us in a way that is dynamic or interesting. In fact, what it's doing is it's restricting our connection to what's going on.
yeah. It yeah, it's kind of that sometimes not showing lets people kind of have that imagination of what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but it it does feel like it's maybe it could have got someone else who could have edited it better for him, who could have said, look, this is so disjointed that people don't know where they are.
Hmm.
Like you say, where there's a point where they're all in the same room, all the handlers and the contenders, but you do feel as if like I thought at one point they all had their own separate room,
Mm.
and then there's a shot where you kind of see, I think, Ray Winston throws some at Sam, and it's like I didn't actually realize they were all together
Hmm.
and that. Um, and, yeah, I think where it falls down is poorly edited, and that I think maybe if you'd have been able to edit it better, that maybe it would have kind of salvaged it a bit more. I think it's just because he's made some poor choices of how to. I mean, I watch films. I have no idea of how to make them and cut them and that. So it's just my opinion. And if the guy's listening, he's probably thinking, "Oh, you're all wrong." And that I've done 3 films. Well, congratulations, but unfortunately, 2 of them wasn't very good. The original of this has done really well. Now, yes, I'm going to try and find it just to kind of try and compare it a little bit.
Hmm.
It'd be interesting to see whether it is that social commentary that's kind of made it a hit originally
Hmm.
and that, but it just, I think there's a core of a good film here. There's a core of a good story.
Hmm.
It's just not being executed properly.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly well said. And there's glimmers of it. The ending on the train. So we have Vince, Sam Riley, and with Jason Statham's character on a train. There's a really nice shot of Statham walking towards him down the carriage, looking very
Yeah,
threatening. There's a moment between them where Statham's like chanced upon him actually, and he's obviously so he's gonna rob him of his money, which he does. Shoots Sam Riley's Vince character, leaves him for dead, and runs off with the money. It's like a shot of him running down the underpass tunnel at the end. That's well directed.
the scene before it when he goes into the shop,
Hmm.
and he goes into, I can't remember what he goes in to buy, but he sees he mentioned right at the start that his sister, if she had a load of money, would get a sheep but it had to have a black head so that she could
Black ears, I
recognize
think,
it.
wasn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
black ears, yeah. Then he sees one in there, so he buys it
Hmm.
and that, and it amused me. Obviously, then we get to the bit on the train. Statham shoots him, runs off with the bag, all excited, and then you realise the fact that it was the sheep that was in the bag that he's run
Yeah,
off with.
because he's sent the money via courier, hasn't he, to his family?
Yeah, because
Agreed, but there's no payoff because
no,
the Stath runs off and we don't see him open the bag. It's weird.
that's I think that's where there's a bit of a problem there. It would have
Mm.
been better if the bit when he runs he runs down the tunnel and round the corner. If it had shown him just come round the corner and just peek into the bag,
Yeah,
and that sheep's head had been there, it'd been like, fuck.
yeah, it would have been a much better ending. Yeah, the ending is weird. It's like the end of a pilot for a TV series that never got commissioned or something. It's weird. It just ends.
We kind of have this ending in a previous Statham film,
Mm.
and that Collateral.
But I think Collateral feels a lot. It feels a lot more satisfying. I mean,
Yeah, but I think
I
that's
know what
where
you
the
mean. There's like an early setup for where this is going to go with the story of the guy riding around on the train in Collateral. Yeah, I know what you mean. And we don't see like Cruz's body being discovered.
no,
Yeah, I hear
just
you, but
we kind of see the train carries on and Cruz is just sat there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In this, maybe it would have been better instead of him falling on the floor and kind of, if he'd have just stayed sat there.
Also called Vincent. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Vincent and Vince. You're right. Good shout. I didn't even put that two and two together. I like it.
I don't know what year. What year did?
Collateral was a lot. 2004, I think. Quite
So
significant before this.
2004, yeah.
Look at that. Top of the head, Maff. Top of the head.
And the original of this came out in 2005. So maybe he saw that and thought I can because there are elements as if he's kind of taken several different films and kind of put it together.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many plot threads. The police that are chasing, but chasing is the wrong word, who are kind of tracking Sam Riley's character Vince at the start. They go out of it until the police captain comes in or the detective comes in again for one scene. Like you say, the family and the dad doesn't really go anywhere. Mickey Rourke's character doesn't go anywhere. There's these plot threads which should kind of exist for a minute, but then he sort of forgets about or doesn't decide what he wants to do with them, doesn't resolve any of them. I think it's problematic too.
Yeah, because I mean, the bit with the police. I mean, the police are more of a background character than Statham,
Mm.
and that they're not really used at all.
We don't know why they're following and what their motivation is. Do they know about this event? We don't really know anything. We just know police are there. It's
Yeah,
weird.
they happen to be watching the guy's house who gets the letter,
Yeah.
and that, and from there they take this giant leap that the electrician is now taking this place. It doesn't really work. I mean, again, Vincent kind of takes the bottom of his shoes off, and then he's got this elaborate story that he's already made up that he was running through the woods. Um, it, yeah, it does feel like he's taken several films, he's tried to push it together,
Mm.
and it's just not worked.
No.
And that, I mean, I'd give him a 5 out of 10 for effort
Very
for trying
generous.
to do it, but it's just a bit disjointed, and that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and, and maybe because it's technically it's his first film, he's just remade it,
Hmm.
and that maybe it just didn't work for the American audience or the American English audience,
Hmm.
and that. So, but yeah, it's frustrating because I do feel there is something there. It's just unfortunately it just didn't deliver.
Hmm.
But as I say, I've watched it 1.5 times. I would watch this again.
Yeah.
And
I think
that,
you're coming at a very, you're coming at it from a very fair, a very honest way. I think you're trying to give it its dues where it deserves it, and you're being critical where you think it deserves it too. I don't think anyone could say you're not. You're not. I'm the one who's being the arsehole here. I'm happy to be the arsehole. I would not watch this again, and I think 5 is very generous. But that's the beauty, isn't it, of subjective opinion on art. Like we both got
yeah, I mean,
different things out
I
of this.
don't feel I wasted my time watching it. I
I'm
don't
glad. I mean,
feel.
which I'm really glad for, because of course, this is your debut on the show, and you're going to come back on. So I'd hate you to feel like you wasted it here.
I mean, we were saying before, in the name of the king. I think we
Yeah.
said before we came on air. I've started to watch that, and for whatever reason, I broke off and I've not gone back to it.
Hmm.
Um, and as I said, I do feel I would watch this again. If someone says, do you want to watch a really weird film? I'd go, do you know what? I've got one here that's, you know, if you can take away certain parts of the film, you will probably get some enjoyment out of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And again, maybe if I watched it again, I would see things a bit different. Maybe I would be a bit more critical of it, next time round,
Hmm.
watching it, and then kind of would pull up a bit. But I don't know. It just, like I said before, it had that 90s feel to it. It had I don't know, a bit of nostalgia from
Yeah. Fair.
something else that I've seen before.
Yeah. I think 90s is a really interesting point, because you made a comment before about, cutting away and not showing and letting your imagination do some of the work, which again, I think that's a great argument for perhaps a choice that was made by the director here. I don't think he pulls it off. Again, I think it's a skill set. Think of Tarantino, think of Reservoir Dogs. Everyone thinks they saw that policeman's ear getting cut off. They didn't, because he cuts away. Nobody has ever seen it. But so again, like perhaps he's taken inspiration from that. Perhaps that's what he's going for. It's just, yeah, in my opinion, it's a skill set that is lacking. It's him reaching and never quite achieving. And you don't knock people for trying. You're absolutely right, and you reward. And I think you've convinced me on some of the things which I should have been more positive about. I think you've done a good job of that. But I think as a piece overall, it doesn't quite come together.
No, and yeah, I mean, as I said, I enjoyed the film. I am not saying it's a brilliant film,
You did
but
use the word brilliant earlier, but
I think the last one I said Ray Winston, and I
and,
kind
and,
of
and
corrected myself saying I won't
unless I've
use the
edited it
word.
out to try and no,
But
fair.
yeah, I think when we come to score it, it's one of those that I would say people it's worth a watch, even if you're not a Statham fan. To be fair, I wouldn't watch it for the Statham as
Mm,
such,
mm.
because he doesn't really add anything to it.
No, his kind of
Uh,
defining feature is that he wears a hat.
Yeah, which I don't know. That didn't suit him.
No, but
It,
it didn't. No, I agree. And then, a lot of the reviews I read on Letterboxd, I have to trawl through to find ones that are suitable for the show. That, they were kind of saying like, all the hat doesn't, and I agree it doesn't. But like broader than that, like the role he's playing here, I'm trying to find the right words. The role he's playing here has no character. Like there is no substance to it. The in inverted commas character he is playing. And it is, I imagine it was what can we do to make this guy different? I'll put him in a hat. And that's literally his defining character because there's nothing else about him whatsoever. He's just somebody who exists to try and make money on this.
is a poor man. A poor man's Turkish, I'd say. That. Yeah,
Yeah,
Turkish is one where the yeah,
that's in Snatch.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, because he's kind of. I mean, he's using his brother and that, but he's kind of, oh, we're good, I'm going to be a bit edgy. I'm going to kind of, pull off some deals and pull in some money, and but again, it just doesn't. It would have been better without Statham. I don't think he. I see why he's picked him because he probably thought Turkish. That's kind of the character he is, but he's like a very poor man. He's like a bargain basement Turkish in this,
Yeah, I
and
guess he brings in an audience, doesn't he? Which is why all these actors have been cast really,
yeah,
is because they're going to bring in an audience, isn't it? But yeah, because yeah, you're right. He's not doing enough. He's not bringing anything to it really, and the role doesn't allow him to. It's an odd one for him to have chosen. It doesn't stand out in any way in his filmography. Really, it's most of the time we've done this show. It's been he's got good chemistry with somebody else. His charisma shines through. Um, it's hard to imagine anybody else in the role. But you're here saying like, really, it could have been anyone else.
yeah. He fades into the background. If you wasn't aware of who Jason Statham is, you just wouldn't really notice him in this. He's
Mm,
just a guy who's a handler. He's betting on his brother,
mhm.
and just being a bit of a chancer. And that, yeah, I like I said at the start, I think if you give Statham something to kind of some scenery to chew on, he can do
Mm,
that.
mm.
He's so wasted in this.
Perhaps it's just a case of him trying something a bit different again, isn't it? A
Yeah,
smaller role, a dramatic role, something which had been well received in its original form. Perhaps, like I said at the start, perhaps you had a spare month or two. It can't have taken him long to shoot his
no,
scenes. Spare couple of weeks, even probably, where he could fit this in around doing the Expendables, or I don't know, but yeah,
yeah, I think it must have been a favor. It just or yeah, I think it must have been a favor. I think someone must have just said, "Look, could do with your, you know, quick payday. Give us a
mm,
couple of weeks, just film a couple of scenes, and that's it. Away you go."
yeah.
Yeah,
It feels inessential for him, and it feels inessential for him to have been in the film.
yeah,
Is all we can say, really.
and they don't even give him a really cool name like a Lee Christmas or anything. It's just
Oh, Chev
yeah.
Chelos, you're right.
There's nothing wrong with being called Jasper, but yeah, it could have had a bit more of a oomph to it or something like that, you
It's
know.
true.
But again, it you could have easily had this film without Statham's character to be even the background story to Statham's character of him going and borrowing the money and all the rest of it and that it really I suppose at the end it kind of leads into the fact that he's in shit and he needs to go steal the money off Vincent.
Hmm.
But again, it's a very much kind of it's a throwaway,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Throwaway.
and we don't even get the payoff
We-
of
we-
the sheep.
No, we don't. It's true. It's true. All right. You've done some good convincing. Now let's see if any other people can convince you to change your mind to how they think. Can I dive into letterboxed?
Yeah,
Okay, M Vega 96 says, even with a cast this amazing, this movie manages to make a game of Russian roulette somewhat uninteresting. I gave this movie an extra star for Michael Shannon's performance, shouting the same 4 lines in each of his scenes. Accurate and true.
Yeah, true.
Cassio Ree says, a bad film made even worse by having Jason Statham wear a horrid little hat throughout. I said quite a few people picked out the hat, didn't I? Sandro Corvetto says, interesting premise, but the movie itself was very dull. It has an impressive cast, but doesn't do that much with them, wasting characters and subplots, having most of them kind of just ending awkwardly. And the game scenes themselves never felt intense or suspenseful enough to keep things interesting. Forgettable, except for how strangely incompetent the whole thing feels.
I like the fact that it's kind of echoing what we've already said.
It is.
I'm glad I didn't look at any of these before.
Yeah, feel like it's tainted you. Yeah. So I think, yours is going to be the most positive letterbox review out there. There's not many, I can tell you that. Lou Shoemaker says, there is one interesting and pretty cool aspect to 13, and the rest of the movie is not just bad, but truly inept. The basic plot is that a hapless young handyman gets caught up in a high-stakes and highly illegal Russian roulette tournament. The visual of the game are great. All the players gather in a big circle to point their guns at the back of each other's heads, and it takes place in an abandoned building that has a stripped-down charm about it. The players all wear numbers made of duct tape, and the bettors swarm around them like well-dressed sharks. Unfortunately, the nature of Russian roulette means that these scenes take up maybe 15 minutes total, and the rest of the film is basically incomprehensible. He's echoing you there. For one, the film opens with a flash forward to show us the final 2 contestants in the game, which is a huge spoiler. For another, characters just show up randomly with no introduction and leave just as quickly. There's a whole subplot with Mickey Rourke that seems like it's going to be a big deal, and then it just isn't. There are cops chasing the protagonist, but it's never explained how they found out about them. Worst of all, the central game ends with 30 minutes left in the film, and we're treated to an incredibly low-speed chase between the protagonist, the cops, and Statham. It's less a game of cat and mouse than it is a game of 2 cats just wandering around your apartment aimlessly. I think I figured out the key to making Statham uncool. Put something on his head. I mean, the man even managed to seem a tiny bit badass in the Name of the King. But in both this and London, he seems like a wimp. Here, he's stuck with a truly ugly pork pie hat. It works for his character, given that he's supposed to be a feckless loser, but that doesn't mean I want to watch it. And he never punches anyone, which is true. Very disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that we both kind of convinced each other to kind of rethink it a little bit. It's not, like I say, I do accept it's not as good as what, when I first kind of turned it off, I kind of thought, oh, actually, I quite enjoyed that. Now, rethinking it, it's so, and that, but it's not horrible.
Mm-hmm. And what will happen in the future is you'll just get to watch something that's hopefully of a much higher quality.
Yes. But yeah, I think for your score, we have, is it a must see?
So it's classic, worth catching, and completist only. But this is more specifically, obviously, within the Statham's filmography. So not as a film, which I think you've said you think as a film it's worth catching, but within the Statham film. Oh God, wow! Just the name of the show within the Statham's filmography, it is.
Yeah, I think it's completist only. I think it's, if you're a big Statham fan, yes, watch it. You're wasting your time a bit for the Statham, to be fair, but yeah,
I could not agree with you more.
Yeah,
I did feel like I was wasting my time as I watched this, and I even made my partner even volunteered to sit through this one. She doesn't watch many of them. She sat and watched this one, and then she felt her time was wasted too.
Sorry about that.
Well, hey, it's my project. I don't know why you're apologizing to me.
True.
All right, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great, and I think we'll get to know each other really well now. And I think what I'm learning from you, the more I talk to you, we started on Andor, didn't we? We've met each other in real life.
Yeah.
And now we're doing it again now on my own show. I think I'm coming to learn that, you're always going to come at something with a proactive, positive outlook, and you're looking to find the good things. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great characteristic to have, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare I turn something off and that, and the thing is, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the world. I might as well, if I've spent my time watching something, I might as well look at something decent and try and pick some good out of it, so I don't feel like I've completely wasted my time.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great outlook. Where else can people hear that outlook? What other shows have you been on? Have you got coming out?
Right. We've got Ahsoka getting released, so I will be appearing on at least one of them shows. I think I'm doing the third episode because there's some stupid reason it's my birthday, and I said I would record because why not? I will be appearing on Spider and Secret Bores. We talk about our top 5 worst medical professions, which was an interesting chat.
I'm looking forward to that.
We've just actually done as well, genuine chit chat. We did Rebels reviews. We've reviewed all 4 seasons, and we've just done a lead up to Ahsoka as well. So that should be outlined about this time as well.
Great.
Where we just kind of chat with what we think is going to happen in the show.
I'm really behind. Yeah, so that's something for me to listen to in the future.
Don't listen to that until you finish Rebels.
Which I've watched through once, but I'm rewatching it all with my Padawan right now. So I'm listening as we finish each season. So we're about halfway through season 2 at the moment.
But anyone who hasn't seen Rebels, you should go watch it, and that's very good.
Mike's won you over to that side of the argument.
He has got me across to the dark side, or the light side. Who knows?
Yeah, well,
but yeah, I did enjoy it. I'm glad that he convinced me.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, mate. And thank you, everyone, for listening and partaking in this journey with me through the Stath filmography. That was 13. Next up in a fortnight is The Expendables, featuring the return of Max Byrne, followed by The Mechanic, featuring the debut of Stath superfan Glyn, for anyone that is watching along. I'm Jack's Musings, and that's JACS, and you can find me on Twitter where I'm most active. You can also contact the show directly on Twitter under the name Back to the Filmog. Make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. I'm also a proud member of the Comics Emotion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So, please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows whenever and wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other, and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers! Cut.